There's a moment in life that almost nobody prepares you for. It's not the breakdown. It's not the heartbreak. It's not even the loss. It's the moment when you realize the person you've been pretending to be is getting harder to carry than the life you're afraid to leave behind. And once that realization enters you, nothing stays the same after that. Because suddenly, the things that once distracted you stop working. The noise doesn't entertain you anymore. The validation doesn't hit the same. Even success can start feeling strangely empty. And that's terrifying. Not because your life is collapsing, but because your soul has stopped accepting substitutes. Have you noticed that lately? The way certain conversations exhaust you now? The way you sit in rooms full of people and still feel disconnected? The way you keep asking yourself, why does everything feel off even when nothing is technically wrong? That question changes everything. Because most people spend their entire lives trying to fix external problems without realizing the deeper issue is internal misalignment. And once you become aware of that misalignment, you can't unsee it. That's where this transformation begins. Not with confidence, not with clarity, but with irritation. A quiet irritation toward the version of yourself that keeps abandoning what you truly feel just to maintain what's familiar. And the strangest part, from the outside, your life may still look completely normal. You still go to work, still answer messages, still smile when people expect you to, still follow routines. But internally, something has started disconnecting from the old reality. And if you've been feeling this lately, I need you to hear this carefully. You are not failing at life. You are becoming too conscious to continue living on autopilot. That's different. Most people think transformation feels inspiring. It doesn't. At first, it feels lonely, because the moment you start changing internally, you begin noticing how many relationships were built around a version of you that no longer exists. And that realization hurts. You start recognizing how often you stayed quiet to keep the peace. How often you accepted less than you deserved just to avoid disappointing people. How often you betrayed your own instincts because you were afraid of being misunderstood. And maybe that's why your energy has been changing lately. Not because you became cold, but because your nervous system is tired of surviving environments that require you to shrink. Think about that. Some people don't actually miss you. They miss access to the version of you that overextended, overexplained, and overgave. And now that version is disappearing. That's why certain connections suddenly feel tense. That's why some people pull away when you become more honest. That's why your silence has become uncomfortable for people who benefited from your self-neglect. Growth reveals everything. And here's what nobody tells you about this stage. Before your life expands, your tolerance decreases. You stop forcing conversations. You stop chasing people. You stop needing to convince others to value you. You stop saying yes when your body is screaming no. And at first, that shift can make you feel guilty because you spent years being rewarded for self-abandonment. But eventually, you begin understanding something powerful. Peace is not something you earn after exhaustion. Peace is supposed to be your starting point. Let that sink in. Now here's where this gets even deeper. There may have been a recent moment, small, almost forgettable, that quietly changed you. Maybe it happened while driving alone at night. Maybe while staring at your ceiling, unable to sleep. Maybe during a conversation where you suddenly realized you couldn't relate to the person speaking anymore. But in that moment, something inside you said, I can't keep living like this. Not dramatically, not emotionally, just honestly. And honest moments like that are dangerous because they awaken parts of you that refuse to go back asleep. After that, your old coping mechanisms stop working. Distractions stop numbing you. People's opinions stop controlling you. Even your old dreams may begin falling apart. And that can feel confusing because you worked so hard to build this version of life. But sometimes the hardest truth to accept is this. You can outgrow a life you once prayed for, not because it was wrong for you then, but because you're different now. That's what transformation actually is. Not becoming someone new, becoming someone more honest. And honesty changes everything. It changes what you tolerate, what you desire, what you walk away from, what you finally stop apologizing for. You begin craving depth over attention, calm over stimulation, authenticity over image. And slowly, your entire reality starts reorganizing itself around who you're becoming. And maybe that's why you've been feeling emotionally tired in ways sleep can't fix. Because this isn't physical exhaustion, it's identity exhaustion. It's the exhaustion that comes from carrying versions of yourself that no longer feel true. From smiling when you feel disconnected, from saying I'm fine when something deep inside you knows you're changing, from trying to force alignment with people, places, and routines your spirit quietly outgrew months ago. That process can feel brutal, because while your future self is trying to emerge, your past self is fighting for survival, and the hardest battles are never external. They happen silently inside you. One part of you wants expansion, another part wants safety. One part of you is craving freedom, depth, honesty, and a completely new chapter. Another part keeps asking, but what if I lose everything familiar? One part knows it's time to move forward. Another part keeps replaying old fears like a broken recording. Fear of disappointing people, fear of being judged, fear of making the wrong decision, fear of leaving behind what's comfortable, even when comfort has become emotionally suffocating. That tension is exhausting, because it feels like you're being pulled in two different directions at once. Your intuition is pulling you forward, while your conditioning is begging you to stay where things are predictable. And that inner conflict? That's the threshold. That's the moment right before transformation becomes irreversible. Most people turn back there. Most people numb themselves there. Most people distract themselves just enough to avoid hearing what their soul has been trying to say. But you can't anymore, can you? Because once you become aware that you're living out of alignment, you can survive it for a while, but eventually it starts destroying your peace. And if you're in that space right now, I want you to remember something important. Not every season of your life is meant to feel stable. Some seasons are designed to interrupt you, to shake you awake, to expose the patterns you normalized, to reveal how much of your identity was built around survival instead of truth. Some seasons are meant to detach you from identities you've outgrown. The people pleaser, the overgiver, the version of you that constantly minimized their needs just to keep others comfortable, the version that kept settling because they didn't fully believe they deserved more. Those identities can't come with you anymore. And deep down, you already know that. That's why certain behaviors suddenly feel impossible to continue. You can't fake excitement the way you used to. You can't tolerate shallow connections the same way. You can't ignore your intuition without feeling emotionally heavy afterward, because awareness changes your tolerance forever. Some seasons are meant to expose the habits keeping you emotionally stuck, the constant need for validation, the habit of abandoning yourself for approval, the addiction to staying busy so you never have to sit alone with your thoughts, the emotional attachment to chaos because peace feels unfamiliar. And once those habits become visible, you can't unknow them. That's why growth feels uncomfortable, not because you're becoming worse, but because you're finally seeing clearly, and clarity changes everything. Some seasons are meant to dismantle the false life before the real one can begin. Not because the universe is punishing you, not because life is against you, but because the foundation you built your life on can no longer support the person you're becoming. And yes, that dismantling can feel painful. There are nights where you question yourself, moments where you wonder if you're making a mistake, days where loneliness feels heavier than certainty. You'll miss people you already know you've outgrown. You'll grieve versions of yourself that once helped you survive. You'll feel guilty for changing. You'll wonder why nobody around you seems to understand what you're experiencing. Because transformation is deeply personal, most people won't understand your evolution while it's happening. They only understand it after the results become visible. But destruction is not always punishment. Sometimes it's preparation. Sometimes life removes what no longer aligns before your mind is emotionally ready to release it. Sometimes the friendship fades because you were shrinking inside it. Sometimes the opportunity falls apart because it was connected to an identity you're meant to leave behind. Sometimes the plan fails because your soul refuses to build a future that requires self-betrayal to maintain. And in the moment, that loss can feel unbearable because humans cling to familiarity. Even painful familiarity can feel safer than unknown freedom. That's why people stay in relationships that drain them, why they remain in environments that keep them small, why they repeat habits that quietly destroy their peace. Not because it feels good, but because it feels familiar. And the mind will often choose familiar pain over unfamiliar peace. But one day, you'll realize the things you cried over losing were the exact things blocking your growth. The relationship that exhausted you, the habits that numbed you, the version of yourself that kept performing instead of living honestly. You weren't being abandoned, you were being redirected. And if hearing this makes something inside you emotional, that's not random. That's the part of you finally recognizing what it's been trying to say for a long time. Maybe this is the moment you stop fighting yourself. Maybe this is the moment you finally admit that constantly betraying your own needs just to keep everyone else comfortable has exhausted you. And if that truth hits deeply, comment, I'm no longer abandoning myself, not for attention, but as a decision. Because healing begins the moment you stop choosing against yourself. That's the part nobody understands until they live it. The confusion, the isolation, the feeling that your old life is ending while your new life hasn't fully appeared yet. You exist in this strange, in-between space, no longer who you were, not yet who you're becoming. And the mind hates uncertainty. It wants immediate answers and reassurance. But transformation rarely works that way. Real change happens invisibly first. So because you can't yet see proof, you start wondering if anything is changing at all. But it is. Every moment you choose honesty over performance, something changes. Every time you stop abandoning yourself to keep others comfortable, something changes. Every moment you choose intuition over fear, something changes. Even now, while it feels like nothing is moving, your inner world is reorganizing itself. And that matters more than you realize. Because empty does not mean meaningless. This silence matters. This uncertainty matters. Because this is where you finally hear yourself clearly. No pretending, no chasing, no distractions, just truth. And truth rearranges your entire life. It changes your standards, your boundaries, your relationships, your future. Truth forces you to stop negotiating with what hurts you. So, if your old life has been feeling emotionally heavy lately, don't panic. You are not losing yourself. You are losing the parts of yourself built from fear, guilt, survival, and external approval. There's a difference. You are not becoming empty. You are becoming honest. And honesty feels terrifying before it feels freeing. Because for the first time, you are no longer asking, what will keep everyone else comfortable? You're finally asking, what feels true for me? And that question changes everything. One day, you'll wake up and realize something incredible. You no longer chase people who confuse your spirit. You no longer need constant reassurance to trust yourself. You no longer feel guilty for protecting your peace. And the most beautiful part, you won't even recognize the old version of yourself anymore. Not because you became someone fake, but because you finally became real. You stopped shrinking for approval, stopped pretending to be okay while falling apart inside, and instead, you became grounded, honest, emotionally free. So if this message found you at the right moment, take it as confirmation that the shift has already started. Your life is changing from the inside first, and even if you can't fully explain it yet, you can feel it. The discomfort, the awakening, the quiet knowing that you can't go back to who you used to be. Trust that, because the version of you emerging from this season will never again settle for a life that requires self-betrayal just to maintain it. And that changes everything. So don't run back to old patterns just because the unknown feels uncomfortable. Stay with yourself, because this version of you, the one choosing authenticity over fear, the one finally trusting themselves again, the one walking away from what no longer aligns, is building a life your past self could barely imagine. And once that transformation is complete, there is no going back.